Oftentimes in football, all the glamour and recognition goes towards skill players that make absolutely beautiful plays that get put on highlight tapes. But in the dark places of football, that is where the true measure of success is found for a lot of teams. We're going to talk about it in this episode, folks, as it pertains to the Lions. Stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10, 5, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, all Detroit Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're going to be diving on in. So as I said in my community post the other day, this is a project that took me quite a while to put everything together because there was a lot of data, there was a lot of information that I had to put together. Plus, on top of that, I was trying to really come up with something that I thought was really good because, again, as I've said before, we're right now in the middle of the off-season kind of dull period, kind of in the doldrums of summer. There's not really a whole lot of stuff going on, so it's like I really want to spend time pushing out good quality content. I don't want to just make content for content's sake. I want to make content that is really good, that's going to keep your guys' interest. So I really wanted to think about this. And I came up with this idea because I was like, you know what? Oftentimes when we look at anything that is a piece of work of art, whatever what you would call it, there's always a story within said story that gives depth and substance to the overall picture. Some can see this right away, like they have an eye for it. Others, they can't quite see it, and you have to kind of tell them what it is. It's kind of like they can't see the forest between the trees concept. Now, this process I'm speaking of, you can find it in many cultural pieces of art and music. And usually behind any sort of masterpiece of art, music, whatever you want to call it, an underlying story, an underlying kind of concept exists. Now, let's call it for what it is here. I'm not a big art connoisseur. I don't really know a whole lot about art. I don't really care for a lot about art. But I can recognize good art when I see it. If we realistically want to talk about it here, sometimes the backstory for art can be positive, it can be calm, it can be something that elicits a state of relaxation. But a lot of times, at least from what I have seen, there are other times art has a negative, a disruptive, sometimes even a violent backstory. And obviously you can tell the difference usually when you take a look at pieces of artwork. And the same is also very true for pieces of music. Now, I'm not going to get into all different types of art and music. That's not what you guys are here for. I'm just literally giving you guys a very broad stroke kind of ability to understand where I'm going with this. Because in football, this concept that I'm talking about with art and music is very much the same as well. It's very much true too. Because whenever you think of some of the best teams that have ever been assembled in NFL history, you can identify that those teams that I'm talking about, they've left an impact. They've left a footprint of something over the annals of history in NFL history. But there's always a story that kind of goes behind the scenes that most of the time people don't find out about until later. And that's why I'm saying that story has more to it than what typically meets the eye. Now, I honestly truly believe that the current Detroit Lions team right now is one of those teams that really has a chance to stand out, as I said, in the annals of, NFL history, because this is a team that truly has the ability to make a difference. It truly has the ability to leave, like I said, that impact, that footprint. And why do I think that? Well, let's call it for what it is. The Lions right now have one of the best offenses in the NFL. They have an explosive offense. They have a creative offense. They have an offense that is extremely balanced. Because let's understand something here. Most of the times in times past, when you talked about some of the best offenses in NFL history, it was usually an offense that was one-sided. It was either really a running offense or it was a passing offense. But what makes the Lions offense so damn good is that we have the ability to do both really, really well. We have a top 10 quarterback, top 7 quarterback, really. We have a top 10, top 5 wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. So those two right there are obviously going to make huge plays. But then we also have a top 5 running back duo, I would argue top 3 running back duo in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So our offense is one of those offenses that just absolutely has the ability to take over games. And when you think about, like I said, the personnel we have, Goff, Johnson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Gibbs, Laporta, David Montgomery, I mean, you're talking about a lot of these guys. They get high praise every single week. Every single week when we talk about different, local shows, we talk about the big shows in NFL, I mean, they will constantly get brought up. But I'm going to say this right now. The one group that everybody knows is great, but doesn't get quite nearly as much praise as the guys that I just talked about, that I just mentioned, is the offensive line. And the offensive line is that group that kind of grows in the dark, and they get overlooked, but boy, do they ever play a very, very important role. Because let's understand something. The Lions' offense is a masterpiece, no doubt about it. The way that Ben Johnson calls plays, the way Jared Goff runs the offense, the way the plays are handled, it's a masterpiece. It is a literal, living, breathing masterpiece. But let's call it for what it is. The offense, it all starts and it finishes with Hank Fraley's unit, the offensive line. Let's consider the beauty and the elegance that the Lions' offense exhibits. In all the highlight plays, and everything that we have as far as those plays exist, whether it's a pass, whether it's a run, it all starts with the nasty, grisly, violent trenches up front first. Think about it. None of those highlight plays that we talk about that we're so fond of, they do not start unless you have a very nasty, violent offensive line. And that's what Hank Fraley's unit is. These trenches that I'm talking about are the true measuring stick of how the Lions and, well, I dare say any football team can succeed in the NFL. Consider how much the Lions' offensive line is truly responsible for the Lions' offensive success. Let's just think about this here for a minute, folks. Let's go to ESPN Analytics here. Let's take a look at the pass block win rate and the run block win rate for the Detroit Lions last year, because obviously they have not played this year. Last year, the Lions were ranked 13th in both categories. So, okay, you have the Lions winning 60% of the time in their pass blocking sets, and they win 71% of their time in their run blocking sets. That's what ESPN Analytics says. Then you go to PFF and you take a look at what they say in regards to their run blocking grades, their pass blocking grades. According to PFF, the Lions' run block grade was second best in the entirety of the NFL. When you take a look at the pass blocking grade, it was ranked 12th. Now, some people are going to be like, well, wait a minute here. How is it that one is saying so much better than the other when a lot of people are also saying that the Lions have the best unit in the entirety of the NFL here? Well, first and foremost here, let's understand how ESPN does its grading metrics, and then on top of that, let's also put into perspective here how ESPN's grades work in comparison to the rest of the other units that were in the NFL at that time. ESPN bases everything based upon how well a block was managed, how well you're able to keep a guy from getting inside of either the pocket or getting around you to try and make a tackle. That's how they base how a block is won or lost. And usually it's also based upon how long an offensive lineman can hold said block. So that's where they come up with how a block was won or lost, and that's where they come up with those measurements. It's usually a pretty accurate measurement. Now, when we take a look at PFF, theirs is a different measuring analytic that I don't know how they come up with it. But I decided to say in a different episode that I was like, okay, is this actually making sense based upon what we know? Because in 2023, the Detroit Lions had arguably the second best offensive line behind the Philadelphia Eagles. Now they have the best offensive line. The Lions' offensive line is elite. But I decided to take a look, like I said in that episode. I took a look at all the top units, which I think there were about 7 in that year. And I said, okay, based upon all the numbers here, if you start averaging everything out, where do the Lions fall in that whole category? And when I took a look at it, the Lions actually, when you averaged everything out, you did all the math, the Lions were actually second to the Philadelphia Eagles. But what was really, really cool about the whole thing is that the Eagles were number 1, right? But the Lions were just like right behind them. There was not much difference between the two. So actually, not only did the logic make sense, but the math backed it up as well. But now with the Eagles losing Jason Kelce to retirement and the fact that the Lions picked up Kevin Zeitler in free agency, it's like, okay, the Lions have the best offensive line unit in the entirety of the NFL. And it's not even close because, again, if you take a look like I showed with the Eagles and the Lions, the next best unit, which I think was the Broncos, was like 3 or 4 points removed on average from where the Lions were at. So it's like, listen, the Lions are in a class all their own when it comes to their offensive line. It's not even close. But that's only part of the story here. I decided to then also take a look at how much the offensive line was truly doing to help the running backs. Because again, our offense is balanced. It's very, very balanced in being able to allow us to run the ball nearly as effectively as we can pass the ball. So I said, how many yards on average is the running backs that we've got, which is Gibbs and Montgomery, picking up before they even get first contact from an opposing defender? I decided to look this up. For Gibbs, he picked up on average last year about 2.7 yards before he even got touched. For Monty, he was picking about 2.5 before he got touched. That's pretty damn impressive. Think about this, folks. There are 10 yards that you have to pick up before you can pick up a first down. Think about this. Montgomery and Gibbs were almost picking up a third of the total amount of yards that they had to get before they were even getting touched by an opposing defender. Think about that. That means that they were picking up 3 yards out of 10 almost before they were even getting touched. That's why when you take a look at Montgomery, he had what? I think it was like a 4.4, 4.5 rushing average last year. When you take a look at Gibbs, he had a 5 even, if I recall correctly. You're talking about guys that literally were able to have so much open space, were able to have so much room to operate with because of how damn dominant that offensive line was. And when you think about how the two worked together, they were the only group realistically outside of maybe the Dolphins group that almost picked up 2,000 yards between the two of them. But it was actually like they almost had 1,000 yards between each other. The Dolphins, it was kind of like one guy really did a lot of the work and another guy did some of the work. The Lions, it was pretty damn evenly split. And when you take a look at how the two rank in PFF as far as rushers, Monty was ranked 14th last year. Gibbs was ranked 18th. So you got two top 20 rushers that are behind the best offensive line in the NFL. So it's like, dude, you've got yourself the makings of just a damn freaking monster. But again, it does not stop there. We also know that the Lions' pass blocking ability is pretty damn good as well. But it depends on how you look at it. Again, the Lions, I'm going to say this right now. The Lions' offensive line is perfectly balanced. Like, I truly damn mean it. Because think about this, folks. I'm going to put this up on the screen the best I can, but I'm also going to try and explain it because it might not come out the way I'm thinking in my head. But if you take a look at the 5 guys that we have as our starters, we have Decker at the left tackle, we have Zeitler at the left guard, we have Ragnow at center, we have Glasgow at right guard, and Sewell at right tackle. If you take a look at the pass blocking rating and you take a look at the run blocking rating as far as where they're at in comparison to the rest of the NFL in 2023, you are going to get a very, very interesting picture. Take a look at how the Lions' offensive line is so perfectly balanced. If you take a look at the left side of the offensive line, Decker, Zeitler, and Ragnow, you've got a formidable pass blocking tandem. You've got 10th for Decker, you've got 2nd for Zeitler, and you've got 6th for Ragnow. You've got a very formidable pass blocking tandem on the left-hand side of that formation. But if you take a look at the right-hand side of the formation, it's just as equally formidable in terms of run blocking. Ragnow is the best run blocking center in 2023. Glasgow was the 4th best guard in run blocking in the NFL in 2023. And Penei Sewell was the number 1 run blocking tackle in 2023. Think about that right there. On the left-hand side, which is the blind side for Jared Goff, which means that side absolutely has to be good at pass blocking, that's what the Lions are good at. But on the right-hand side of the formation, where the Lions like to run the ball a lot because of Penei Sewell's ability to run, you have 3 guys in a row that realistically can do great at run blocking. But at the very middle of the offensive line, the fulcrum point is Ragnow. Ragnow is good at both. And we know the Lions like to do a lot of center pulls, so that way it's like, hey, if Ragnow needs to support one side or the other, he can add even more support. He can give that little extra boost to help out plays no matter which way it's going, whether it's a run to the left, whether it's a pass, whatever the case might be. The point of the matter is the Lions' offensive line has been so beautifully, so masterfully built and used by Ben Johnson and Brad Holmes that you are talking about absolute perfection, how this line absolutely works. It's absolutely just beautiful to behold. And when you take a look at the numbers, it makes it even much more beautiful. So for me, I'm taking a look at this and I'm like, dude, the line, yeah, it doesn't get a lot of recognition because it gets often overlooked, but the violence that it exhibits is the beauty of it. There's so much violence that the Lions' offensive line has, whether it's passing or run blocking, but they just do it absolutely beautifully. And it is so successful when they do it. But it's not just the offensive line that does a lot of the dirty work for the Detroit Lions. And it's not the offensive line that also allows a unit to succeed. It's also the defensive line. You didn't think I was going to forget about our defensive line. Oh, no. The trenches there are just as important, though I would argue they're not as overlooked. And the reason I say that is because a lot of Lions fans have been paying a lot of close attention to the defensive line unit this offseason, though more to see about what about a possible edge rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Think about it. For defense, the ability to be violent yet controlled is the standard. Like, you have to be able to be violent on defense. But on defense, the line is of one of a, how should I call it? The defensive line is one of a few places left in the NFL, and I would say also the offensive line, because I can't exclude that. The line is one of the few places left that the players that are on those units can still really be violent and engage with opposing players. Now, when you think about the defensive line of the Detroit Lions, it is a deep defensive line rotation. There's a lot of guys on that defensive line, and all of them are pretty damn capable about what they're able to do. But the guys that are the main guys for the Detroit Lions on the defensive line unit are Hutch, Reeder, and McNeil. Those are the three main caballeros. Those are the guys that, hey, they are going to be the ones that everybody's looking to make plays when it comes time for the 2024 offseason. There's going to be other guys, obviously, that people are going to be making, that are going to be expecting to make plays, but those are the guys that you really want making plays. So I said, okay, here, let's take a look at those guys kind of the same way we took a look at the entirety of the offensive line for the Detroit Lions. But before we do that, I then decided to say, let's realistically take a look at let's take a look at the defensive line and what it was able to do last year. Because last year, the Lions' defensive line was an absolute terror when it came to quarterbacks. We didn't get a lot of sacks per se, but we were able to get after quarterbacks like nobody's business. So that's why I'm saying, when people want to take a look at the defensive line, they're always particularly worried about who's the opposite edge rusher to Hutch. And right now, it's a three-way race between Marcus Davenport, Matthew Betts, and James Houston. Now, my money personally is on Betts to make the jump because he's got the most to work with. He's not coming off of a massive injury. He had a great year in CFL, whereas Houston coming off of a big injury. Marcus Davenport hasn't really had a good year in quite a long time, so it's like Betts has got the most going for him. But regardless of who gets the job, think about this from last year's perspective. The Detroit Lions, they had the second best rush defense in terms of total yards given up. They only gave up 1,500 yards rushing. They were third in average per rush, less than 4 yards in average. They were third in first by getting, they were third in the NFL by allowing only on first down by rush. So what I'm saying there is they did not allow a whole lot of first downs by rushing the ball. They only gave up 91 first downs on rushes. They were first in quarterback pressures. They were first in quarterback pressure percentage. They were first in QB hurry. They were second in QB knockdown. And they were 11th in blitz percentage. Now, I know that last one I put up there, 11th in blitz percentage, sounds a little bit awkward. But think about it this way, folks. We were able to accomplish all of those top 5 stats, actually top 3, because not a single one of them was outside of the third ranking. Think about it. All of those top 3 stats we accomplished, and we were 11th in blitz percentage. That tells me that we were able to do our jobs on defense without realistically having to blitz a whole lot. So we were able to get after the quarterback, even though we were not able to sack the quarterback nearly as much as what we wanted to. So my whole thing is this. Whether it's Davenport, Betts, Houston, whoever the Thunderbird is on the opposite end of Hutch, so long as we get just decent production out of them that's at least consistent, we should have a really formidable edge rushing tandem on both sides. Now let's think about this from the three guys that I just talked about a moment ago. Hutch, McNeil, and Reeder. When you take a look at their ability to be pass rush defenders and run defenders last year, that's one way to look at it. But take a look at ESPN. ESPN takes a look at what the Lions were able to do last year in terms of pass rush win rate and run stop win rate. If you take a look at what ESPN has, the Lions were absolutely atrocious in both of those categories. We were 26th in pass rush win rate, and we were 31st in run stop win rate. Now, I had to take a look at this because I'm like, dude, that makes absolutely no sense. Well, according again to ESPN Analytics, the way they rank that whole thing is that in order to be considered a successful pass rush is that you have to beat the guy that's in front of you within 2.5 seconds. That's a pretty hard, tall order to have because it's like, listen, 2.5 seconds ain't a lot of time, and you got to try and beat the guy within 2.5 seconds. That's pretty hard to do. But then when I took a look at the run stop win rate, it was pretty much being told to me, the way I looked at it was like, hey, you have to do something to either shake off the run blocker, you have to do something to get around the run blocker, you have to do something to force the runner to have to go to a different way. Whatever it was, there were so many different variables that made it to where it was considered a successful run stop. But the way I kind of looked at it was like, okay, instead of it being a guy making a 1v1 tackle often enough, it sounded like the Lions were making more gang tackles, which realistically, I don't care how you tackle the guy, so long as it's for minimal yardage and if it's behind the line. I don't care if it's one guy making the tackle or if it's a bunch of guys making the tackle, so long as the guy goes to the damn ground. So it's like, okay, that's how ESPN takes a look at our ability last year to get pass rush win rate and run stop win rate. But then I decided to take a look at Hutch, McNeil, and Reeder last year in regards to where they were around the rest of the NFL. Now, obviously, Hutch was one of the best pass rushers last year. Like, he had one of the best pass rush win rates in as far as individual numbers. But when you take a look at his pass rush as far as his ability to win overall, he had the 7th highest grade last year in terms of pass rush winning rate. He had the 66th run defense grade. So, very good in the pass rush. Not so good in run defense, which, okay, fine, whatever. But when you take a look at McNeil and you take a look at Reeder, the opposite is true, which makes sense because they're defensive interior men. McNeil was ranked 48th in pass rush, while Reeder was ranked 34th in pass rush. When you take a look at their run defense grades, they were ranked 17th and 28th, respectively. So it's like, okay, you've got a guy in Hutch on the opposite end where he's best used to go after the quarterback. Okay, we know he can do that. Where Reeder and McNeil do very well is they go after the running back up the middle, and they are good run stuffers. The whole point is that those three alone, just together, are going to give opposing offensive lines fits. And furthermore, with the other guys on the defense either very new to the defense or they're still getting better, they're going to continue to grow, and the defense is going to get more confident. They're going to get more bold. They're going to get more aggressive. And again, those three headline a defensive line unit that there are others on that line unit that offer a wide variety of combos for them to use. Because think about it, we still have John Kaminsky, Levi Onwuzurike. Whether or not he makes it, I don't know. But we have Josh Pascal, Broderick Martin, we have Betts, Houston, Davenport. I mean, we have got so many different guys on that defensive line rotation. The point of the matter is the summation of this whole episode is that the ability to control the line of scrimmage is absolutely paramount in football. And the Lions have two units that masterfully can do just that. And they do it with absolutely beautiful but just terrifying violence. And that is what truly makes the Lions a successful ball club, is that ability to control the line of scrimmage, whether it's from the offensive perspective or the defensive perspective. But having said that, I think I've come to the end of the episode here. So before I close out the episode, really quickly here, I wanted to make sure I put this announcement out here because I did say I was going to make a big announcement in my post that was coming up here. So why am I saying this? Well, here's why. On the 13th of July, what is going to happen is that I am going to be coming to Michigan. In Michigan, I'm going to be staying with family and friends. I'm going to be celebrating my birthday, the whole 9 yards. But on the 13th of July, I am going to be making it known that I'm going to be at a certain location. It's going to be a Buffalo Wild Wings, and what's going to happen is I'm going to put the actual address in the description of the video, so that way you guys know exactly where I'm talking about here. It's going to be around lunchtime, probably about 12, 1 o'clock, so that way people who want to see me can see me. The reason why I'm doing this is because, one, I'm going to be in Michigan, but also, two, I know that what happened with the whole thing with Rent-A-Center, I wasn't there last time, and that kind of upset a couple of people because they thought I was going to be there. I tried my best to make it known that I wasn't, but there were some people that thought I was still going to be there. This is going to be my opportunity for me to actually be in a place. If you guys want to come and see me, you guys want to have some lunch, you guys want to have some wings, I'm not going to be able to provide that for everybody, so if you guys want, you guys are going to have to pay for yourselves, but I'm going to be there. We can sit, we can talk football, we can have a whole bunch of fun for at least, a couple of hours just talking football, talking about the Lions, doing whatever. So I just wanted to let you guys know that on the 13th of July, at the location that I'm going to put in the description for the video, you guys can come and see me at that time. We can have a lot of fun talking about football, so that way you guys can actually get to see me, because I know the last time it didn't exactly go the way everybody was wanting. But having said that, I'm not going to end the video. I'm going to end the episode and say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so at the time, please, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to subscribe. But I also encourage y'all, make sure you hit that bell notification icon at the bottom of the page, so that way you never miss any more content. Also encourage y'all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can, with everybody and anybody that you can. I also want to make sure that you guys do that because, again, the more we can share it, the greater the channel's reach, the greater the channel spreads, which means the more people we can get into the channel. And I just want to say to everybody, I hope you all enjoyed the content. Hope you all are having a blessed day. Hope you all got something that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.